this day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth. And all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Then all this assembly shall know that the Lord does not save with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. So it was, when the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, that David hurried and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. Then David put his hand in his bag and took out a stone, and he slung it and struck the Philistine in his forehead, so that the stone sank into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and struck the Philistine and killed him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood over the Philistine, took his sword and drew it out of his sheath, and killed him and cut his head with it. And when the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. Now the men of Israel and Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines as far as the entrance of the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell along the road to Sharaim, even as far as Gath and Ekron. Then the children of Israel returned from chasing the Philistines, and they plundered their tents. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it into Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. When Saul saw David going out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, "Abner, whose son is this youth?" And Abner said, "As your soul lives, O king, I do not know." So the king said, "Inquire whose son this young man is." Then as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul, and the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, "Whose son are you, young man?" So David answered, "I am the son of your servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite." Psalm 57, 4 through 11. My soul is among lions, and I lie among the sons of men, who are set on fire, whose teeth are spears and arrows, and their tongue a sharp sword. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens, and let your glory be above all the earth. They have prepared a net for my steps, and my soul is bowed down. They have dug a pit before me, and into the midst of they themselves have fallen. My heart is steadfast, O God, my heart is steadfast. I will sing and give praise. Awake, my glory. Awake, lute and harp. I will awaken the dawn. I will praise you, O Lord, among the peoples, and I will sing to you among the nations. For your mercy reaches into the heavens, and your truth into the clouds. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens, and let your glory be above all the earth. And Proverbs 15:26 says, "The thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Lord, but the words of the pure are present." Present and pleasant, I say. Luke 23:26 through 56. The king on a cross. Now as they led him away and laid hold of a certain man, Simon a Cyrene, who was coming from the country, and on him they laid the cross that he might bear it after Jesus. And a great multitude of the people followed him, and women who also mourned and lamented him. But Jesus, turning to them, said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For indeed the days are coming in which they will say, 'Blessed are the barren, wombs that never bore, and breasts which never nursed.' Then they will begin to say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For they do these things in the green wood, that it'll be done in the dry." There were also two others, criminals, led with him to be put to death. And when they had come to the place called Calvary, there they crucified him, and the criminals, one on the right hand and the other on the left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, because they don't know what they're doing." And that's what we need to do when people sin against us and they think that they haven't done anything wrong. We need to forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. And they divided his garments and cast lots, and the people stood looking on. But even the rulers with them sneered, saying, "Oh, he saved others, so let himself save himself if he is the Christ, the chosen one, chosen of God. So the soldiers also mocked him, coming and offering him sour wine and saying, if you are the king of the Jews, then save yourself. And an inscription also was written over him in letters of Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. This is the King of the Jews. That's exactly what they called him. This is the King of the Jews. So then one of the criminals who were hanged blasphemed him, saying, if you are the Christ, then save yourself and save us. But the other answering rebuked him, saying, you do not even fear God, seeing that you are under the same condemnation, and we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds. In other words, we deserve this, dude. We deserve what we're getting. And you who don't even fear God. But this man, meaning that Jesus didn't do anything wrong. We deserve what we're getting, but Jesus didn't do anything wrong. Then he said to Jesus, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. So at least they acknowledged who Jesus was. At least they knew that he was innocent. And Jesus said to him, assuredly I say to you today that you will be with me in paradise. And then this is the big moment. Jesus dies on the cross. Now it was about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. Then the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was torn in two. And when Jesus had cried out with a loud voice, he said, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. And having said this, he breathed his last. So when the centurion saw what had happened, he glorified God, saying, certainly this was a righteous man. And the whole crowd who came together to the sight, seeing what had been done, beat their breasts and returned. But all of his acquaintances and the women who followed him from Galilee stood at a distance, watching these things. Jesus was buried in Joseph's tomb. Now behold, there was a man named Joseph, a council member, a good and just man. He was not consented to their decision indeed. He was from Arimathea, a city of the Jews, who himself was also waiting for the kingdom of God. And this man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. And when he took it down, he wrapped it in linen and laid it in a tomb that was hewn out of the rock, where no one had ever laid before. So that was in preparation, as the Sabbath was drawing near. And the woman who had come with him from Galilee followed after, and they observed the tomb and how his body was laid. Then they returned and prepared spices and fragrant oils, and they rested on the Sabbath according to the commandment. So, that is it for today's reading. I hope you enjoy the beach. And I certainly hope it wasn't difficult to hear with all the wind. But I'll show you some more of the beach before I go. Well, you have a blessed and wonderful day. God bless you. And I will see you tomorrow.